Welcome back to Nashville, guys. Good to see you again.
Great to be here. Trying to think back, like when we originally got together, I guess the connection came originally through Peter McCracken, who used to work for me up in Canada before we moved all the operations down to the U.S., down to Chicago. And that would have been, would have been because you were touring through Canada, or because you were a customer of ours, or both?
Yeah,
or?
I had, just like yourself, I had collected, over-collected a lot of what we used to call pawn shop guitars, and all the off-brands. So Tisco, Guillotone, and Supro, Airline. And when I started playing with this guy in Canada, touring with him, I was using those guitars all the time. But we were just having a hell of a time with things getting lost, destroyed, airlines, it's just a tough world out there. So, I was looking for alternatives. I didn't want to just play all your normal, Les Pauls and things like that. So I think I found you guys online, and I was like, there's Supros and stuff like that. And as a matter of fact, this map.
Oh yeah, I remember that. You were touring with that.
I'm going to guess it was about 2006 that I got this. And I just bought it. I was like, they got them, they're cool and everything. And I took it out, and I didn't know what to expect. Never heard of the company and everything. Yeah. But it proceeded over the late until this day. It's just a tank. And it's been through your Canadian winters, polar vortexes, you name it, and it just stays in tune. It sounds great.
What are the pickups?
These were changed out to some GFS Surf 90s years ago. A couple little changes here and there, but overall, I will tell you something really cool about this, and that is I did replace the nut because it broke. But other than that, I've never done any fretwork to this or anything.
Wow.
I've just played it the way it is, and it just keeps kicking. So that was my introduction to your stuff, and then from there I think I contacted Peter, who was doing the artist stuff at the time for the next tour. And my role with that artist changes a lot. Sometimes we do the music many different ways in different formats, 3-piece, 4-piece.
Before you put that down, is there a serial number on the back of that stock?
Yeah, it's 0700254.
2007.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
and who's the artist you were playing with?
Paul Brandt is his name. He's a country artist up in Canada.
Yeah.
So and then it was kind of went through quite a bit of the rest of the line from there. Because of my changing role or the changing ensembles we would do. I play a lot of slide and everything. So one tour I got a folk star and an H44, and those were great. Some of the hollow body stuff, one of the early electric mandolins, and so that was my introduction to the whole Eastwood line. And like I said, I kind of worked my way through a lot of it slowly,
And what did it replace? Like what?
I had at the time I had one of the JB Hutto looking, later the Jack White looking, but a wooden body one.
Mm-hmm.
So I was playing one of those quite a bit at the time. I also had a Supro Kingston that I was playing, a couple Tiscos that I was playing, and some old Silvertone Dan Electros.
Yeah.
And that kind of just fit the bill, and just it worked.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Like sound-wise, what were you getting as well? What was the so it's like country lead licks, slide type stuff.
Carl, that's the thing. Playing with this artist, playing with Paul Brandt, like a lot of modern country, it's all over stylistically. We might be playing something very honky-tonk and Dwight Yoakam sounding one minute, and the next minute we're playing something huge stadium rock and roll anthem where you're just rocking out almost punk rock. So I've always looked for guitars for myself that are versatile. I try real hard. I mean, things that do one thing cool, I'd say a Les Paul, but a Les Paul can do a lot of things, especially in the right hands. But I really like guitars that can kind of turn a lot of corners and everything.
Yeah.
So that's what that kind of did. It twanged a little bit, but then it had a nice thick sound to it. And even after changing the pickups, it did all the same things, just in different ways. So, the versatility really kind of kept me coming around.
We were talking the other night at the show RJ played about the guy with the telly with just a neck pickup, and we were saying about guitars with just one neck pickup are cool. And the H44 is definitely that as a guitar. Like excels for like a one pickup guitar.
Yeah, I really dig guitars like that too. That they show you who the player is.
Yeah.
You know, if I play that guitar, it's going to sound one way. If you play it, it's going to sound. If you play it, if RJ plays it, it's going to sound lots of ways. But I really dig guitars like that people are able to have their identity on. You know, versus some of the more common stuff, you can start sounding like everybody else.
Yeah,
you know?
That's been a lot of the kind of the catalyst of the business of Eastwood, is that players who are tired of just walking on stage and looking like everybody else, there's the look, and you get associated with that, and then of course the style of it, you some kind of style of playing out of it you might not otherwise have done. I do remember, I've kind of forgotten that was the first one you kind of, I'm remembering a lot of the, what was the surf band too that you were playing?
Crazy Aces.
Crazy Aces, yeah. So I remember associate you with that and the Crazy Aces, and I remember seeing also pictures of you with Paul Brandt. You wouldn't know who he is, I doubt it, over in the UK, but...
Googled him last night.
Oh, okay. Big, tall, strapping cowboy hat, towering individual. Nice man.
Blitz Young forever.
Yeah, I know.
So what was... So that was 2007 then, based on that. When was your first Senn model then? When did that come through? What was the timeline?
With the Model 1, I think I had designed that in 2014-15.
Yeah.
And then we released it and did had a couple of reviews in the magazines and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Mike had seen it in one of the magazines, and at that time, he started to seek out builders, that might be interested in, hey, we can build another version of the guitar for you and maybe hit another part of the market.
Yeah.
So I remember Mike called me one day, and at that point we hadn't spoken that much.
Yeah.
We knew of each other. I checked in with him once. I bought a really strange Xenon guitar.
I remember that.
I've never seen one like it before. I've only seen one other one in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
It had an etched aluminum thin top on it and everything. So I figured Mike would probably know, and I called him. He's like, I've never heard of it. I don't know what you're talking about. So we hadn't talked that much, but Mike saw the picture or the write-up in one of the magazines. I think it was Guitar Player magazine. And you called him and you said, hey, did you ever think about having somebody else make these and hit a different price point? The ones I build are all hand-built, so they take time, and that type of craft and everything commands a certain price. Yeah. Which excludes a lot of folks, a lot of the market.
Yeah. So
when Mike called with that idea, I was like, I've always had that in mind. I always thought that would be great, for a beginner or intermediate musician to be able to afford that design.
That timing on that must have dovetailed when we were launching the Eastwood Custom Shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we probably had only done a few things at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is the two ideas came together at the right time.
I think too, of course, later on, when you guys were doing the Revolta stuff at Dennis Fano, it was neat to have the background with the instruments, to be able to say, okay, I know this guy and I know what they're doing. I know their product and everything, so I want to do this.
When did you first start building guitars? Where did that come along?
It's about 40 years now, believe it or not. I started in a shop when I was 15. I actually, before that, built 2 guitars at home, one of which, when I was just in high school, in early high school, I played with the jazz band at school. And there was a twinning of 2 counties, Erie County and Limerick County, and our jazz band went over there to play. And I had my beloved Fender Music Master. It was the only guitar I had. It was my first good guitar. And even then I was like, there's no way I'm flying to Ireland with this, I don't know why. But so I built a guitar to take with me. That was my first electric I built, and I was probably 14-ish then, maybe 15.
You weren't living in Nashville then?
No, I was living in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
So pretty early.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, I bought a guitar from Zahn Guitars, who was in Buffalo, New York, who was a bass builder, and went on to quite renowned as a bass builder. And when I was trying out the guitar to buy, he said, "Oh, you play great and everything." And my dad, who was of course trying to hawk me, he's like, "He can build them too," because I think they were. And I came from a blue collar family, so their idea, I think, of me trying to go be a guitar player, it's like, that's great. What are you really going to do for a living? Yeah. So I think they thought if I could learn to build them and repair them and everything, that might be a solid living. So Joe Zahn at the time said there might be something, start with you teaching lessons here, and we'll go from there. And shortly into me teaching lessons there, I started to work there and back with them, and started to learn more of the trade.
When was the first one that you built from scratch and sold, like the first customer?
Not until many years later, because I did go on the road as both guitar tech and a player, depending on which jobs I could get. I moved to Nashville in 1994 and pursued this whole music scene, I worked at Gibson for a little while when I first moved here. Back to the old blue collar thing, you got to have a real job of some sort. And they welcomed me with open arms because they're like, you can paint, you can do all this, great, And that was a fun and cool experience. I was there for about 1.5 years, 2 years before I went on the road. So then I was on the road for the better part of solid 10 years.
Really?
And I had played and everything. Things weren't quite going the way I wanted, so I was thinking of getting off the road. And concurrently, I'd started a repair shop. And I was going to build myself a no-caster copy. And a good friend of mine, really well-known studio player in Nashville, was like, well, I want a Tele 2, build me one, So we started with those two, just kind of for fun, and brought back all those skills again. Because that's what he said, because why would you go buy one when you could build one and probably build it better? Yeah. And that was the impetus. So those two Teles are probably the first ones that, okay, we'll do this. And I didn't have any plans, other than we'll both get a Tele out of it.
You still have the original one?
I don't. I actually sold it to Graham Nash.
Oh, wow.
I have a tendency of things I build for myself, other people come and play them or see them somewhere. And if there's somebody like that, I've sold guitars to a lot of people that either, it's great because it puts my guitars out on the road, and people see them. But also at the same time, just being a music lover, it's like, well, if Graham Nash or John Hyatt, they want the guitar, it's like, it's going to get used, whereas I might play 10, 20 shows a year. So it's like, take it, I'll build another for myself.
Yeah.
So, so that was that's what started it all. And then needless to say, my friend Rob McNally, the studio guy, he, all the other guys who would play with him would see the guitar, and then the calls start coming, hey, that's really cool, can you do it? And a lot of people liked the idea that I could take that platform and build with my knowledge of vintage instruments in a very specific vein. So can you build one like my 56 Strat, and can you copy the neck? Because I love the neck. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So that really kind of ramped things up, and suddenly I was a guitar builder.
It's interesting that we would have connected at that at the end of your kind of regular touring stuff, because it's good to open up a different audience, and I think that's what, with the custom shop thing, it gives a chance to kind of get your name out there to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
But you and your wife Chris did a huge amount of effort in terms of marketing that, and that was, we were all kind of experimenting at the time with how is this really going to fly.
Yeah.
So we all learned a lot at that time going through that process.
It was it was kind of a whirlwind experience, and at the same time it was fun because some things would work and some things, you look back on it and be like, okay, we kind of went over the top here with that and everything. But it was a really awesome experience. Obviously it was a great success, and I think the most heartwarming thing for me is all the people who got in on that, and ordered one. And in some cases, what was perfect about it is there were people that couldn't afford, to spend $3,600 with me to build one, but yet they could have the design because they loved it, and they got on board with it because they loved it and they believed in what I do. So it was a really great life experience.
Well, there was a lot of people who knew you for sure that got in on that first one, and it was cool.
And I think, like I said later on, that it was a little bit of the impetus for Dennis Fano to come on and say, yeah, okay, they're doing this, He
was watching what was going on.
Yeah.
Did we jump right into the baritone after that, or?
We did the Model 1 first, then we did the baritone, I believe. Yes, we did the baritone next, which was the same, body design and everything. Let's just do it in a longer scale. And I love that idea. I love the idea of expanding the design to other utility instruments, And then we moved on and we did the Continental, and we did the Model T, which was basically almost like a T-style superimposed on that Model 1. That might be the last one we did. I can't remember. And then the Model 1s have been kind of going along ever since in the baritones.
Yeah.
So talking about the Continental, as we were, the interesting thing about the Continental is I never went after that design to build en masse or to do over and over again. I love the old Ozarks. They had the really unique pickups and everything. And I thought, as usual, like we were talking about versatility earlier, it's like, what if I had one of those, but it had different pickups and stuff, you could use it for all kinds of music, and it'd be small, and you could travel with it. So I built one for myself with the Proloy top, and then I think I showed you the picture, and you were like, should we build that? I was like, I don't know, should we build it, kind of thing, and we decided to do it. So that was the other cool thing about working with you guys, I think, was that it gave me a platform, that maybe I'm not going to build these things. But Eastwood can build them, we can do them together. And the cool thing about that too is that's your only place to get them. You can't call me up because I'm not making them. So I really like that idea. I thought that was really, really fun to be able to kind of use your imagination and run with it and say, let's see.
Scratch the itch by making a prototype and then let it see where it goes.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for having us, Jeff. It's every time I get to Nashville, I know Carl too, from coming all the way from Liverpool. It's fun to be just kind of bumping into guitar players on every corner.
Yeah, Nashville's that kind of town, and if you love guitars and come here and don't have a good time, I don't know what you're doing.
Yes, that's true.
And like I said, you guys are always welcome.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Cheers.